Okay, then now that we've been through the process of define scope in the crowd training's project management or PM City, now let's go through and review the inputs, outputs, tools, and techniques of this process. Well, we are going to figure out what work is necessary for us to work on for the project. So we kind of have to know, well, what was the entire point of the project? So if you think about the scope in the charter, the project charter is what's going to give us that whole high-level view of what is the purpose of this project, why are we having it, what are we going after, all those kind of details. It gives the sort of that long-term deciding factors and thinking about what needs to be done and why in the products and the project itself. Also, there's going to be many different plans that we are going to have to consider as we are managing the various different parts and elements of the project. So those various different components, my my folders kind of got a little badly drawn there. But if you think about all the folders about, well, one, how we're going to plan to manage the scope, well, that's your scope management plan. So that definitely is going to be your guidance on how we are going to manage the project scope, as well as, how we're going to manage the stakeholders and all these other various different plans that we have in our project management plan. Beyond that, too, you're going to have many different project documents that are going to assist you in determining what needs to be done and why and how much, like your analysis, your assumption logs, your risk register, all these different files and papers and documents. A lot of it now is electronic, but still, if you think about all those different materials that we have at our disposal as project managers. Also, we have our environmental conditions. So I'm just drawing like this bunch of buildings to represent like an office, or could be even the workplace, whatever you want to try to think about it. But so you think about the enterprise in which you work, and those various factors that influence. They usually come from outside your immediate project environment, but they duly affect how you go about doing your project and managing it. Also, then we have a bunch of binders I'll draw here to kind of represent, maybe I'll make one of these binders open or on the side. So these different binders are going to represent our organizational process assets. They are the various different templates and policies, procedures, maybe the various different materials that exist within our organization that's going to help us and assist us in this case, perform the work of defining the scope. Those are your inputs. Then there are various tools that are going to allow us to do this. One being, let me draw my guy thinking here, and he is an expert, or my team has done this before, or they know the technical needs of the product, what it takes, what's going to require. So I'll draw a few more people thinking about things because they know what is necessary, what needs to be done. And so this is the pretty bad drawings here, but various different different expertise, your subject matter experts, your backgrounds, the way you've done before, how you know what needs to be done or not done in the terms of the product, in terms of the project, how the effort is going to take place. So all that coming in is very, very important. You also have to look at all the information in the data and analyze it in some way. And also think about, there are many different ways we can perform the same work. And we have to think, should we go A or should we go B or even C? Thinking about the alternatives and analyzing it and the various different ways to think about the scope and the work and the effort that needs to be taking place, and figuring out where is the best way to go and why. And this is going to have to repeat itself as necessary throughout your project as you figure out and need to overcome maybe adjustments or changes and everything else. And sometimes you're going to make decisions. So I'm just going to throw up some people voting right now. And maybe they're doing it based on multi-dimensional criteria, all these different check boxes, or maybe it's very technical. But whatever the case might be, you're going to have to make some choices and some decisions. So you have some decision making to do, and that is another tool and technique. And then also how the team works with each other and between each other, and even with the customers and the different product owners, and even you as a project manager. Those different skills that you possess are very important. So we're just going to put those in a large interpersonal and team skills, just kind of in general, but all the dynamics that exist with you and your team as you go through all your projects and making the making the grease run in your engine so that you can best suit the needs of the defining of the scope. And then if you're building a product, well, there's a lot of analysis over what is this product, what is it to do. I'll draw an oil can just for simplicity of something, but essentially you got to figure out, well, should we make it this tall or that tall or this material, all those different analysis of the product itself, not the project, but the product, and figuring out what it needs and why and how come and all the different criteria and analyzing its product scope. All right, those are the tools and techniques. Well, your outputs are pretty simple. I'll draw that again. All right, still not much better, but if you're figuring out on defining the scope, well, you should have some definition of the scope. And what we call that for the project scope is a statement. This statement is declaring what is it that we are going to do in terms of the work and why and all that information. And then there's going to be those supporting documents that we had here at the beginning are also going to come into play once again. And I'll draw the documents again, but now these project documents have been updated or have more information or additional information put into it that are going to reflect how we've gone about defining the scope. So the outputs are going to be your project scope statement and updates to your project documents. And that's a quick look at the defined scope process of the 6th edition of the PMBOK by the Crowd Training.